Hi and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Mikel Arteta is the first permanent manager to be appointed post-Emery. And although results have been mixed, many fans are positive about the style of play and tactics he has brought to the club. But what are these tactics? In this video, we take a closer look. And when assessing Arteta's tenure, we will be using stats to help illustrate certain points about Arteta's Arsenal. A great place you can get stats like these for free is our video sponsor, OneFootball. It's a great app that also gives you news, player stats and more, and you can check it out through the link in the description below. Emery was often accused of a few things: constantly chopping and changing his formation, not having a settled first 11, no consistent playing style as he was more concerned about the opposition's style of play and nullifying that, and having a lethargic attack, amongst many other problems. But let's look at Arteta to see if he has solved any of these problems. He has already brought about a much clearer tactical game plan than Emery, as evidenced by starting in a base 4-2-3-1 in all of his league matches. Furthermore, in his last 7 league matches, 9 players have started 5 or more of them, showing the beginnings of a strong foundation. In addition, in his 7 league games, formations aside, his team has played a high possession style with a focus on trying to be attacking, and this is a style Arteta himself has confessed to wanting to implement. So let's start with his build-up tendencies. Arteta no doubt wants his team to play out from the back, with Leno finding the centre backs. However, unlike Emery, who was determined to make them play out no matter what, when under high pressure, Arteta recognized that some of his players are not technically proficient, and from time to time, they are permitted to clear it long. However, when they do go short, Arteta brings elements similar to what he and Pep did at City, as well as maintaining some of Emery's patterns. Down the left-hand side, Arteta has played Aubameyang as they lack a winger to give them width. Assigning Aubameyang to stay out here would be a waste of the club's best forward, so the aim is to get his left back high and up the pitch with the fullbacks. This is why the highly attacking Kolasinac, or more commonly Saka, who's a natural winger, have been chosen to start in this position. Xhaka often initiates play, moving deep into this zone as he did under Emery, which triggers Saka to move high up the pitch. If the team shape stayed as is, the opposition winger could stay on Xhaka, with the central midfielder shifting across to Saka. But Arteta brings in an element he'll be used to as he used this under Pep, which is having his fullback, Maitland-Niles in this case, inverting into the midfield. If the opposition maintained its shape, they would be outnumbered in the midfield, so their central midfielder has to tuck in instead. So the winger has an option. He could pressure Xhaka and leave his fullback 2 versus 1, which is potentially lethal. But if he picks up Saka and sits off of Xhaka has the best passing range at Arsenal, and with time and space on the ball, he could pick out men and make them pay. The trio of Ozil, Aubameyang and Saka combine to make things even tougher for the opposition. But we see a slight difference from the Emery era. Emery rarely used Aubameyang wide. He had a midfielder in this position, and as a result, he wanted his winger to tuck in here and cause the overload. This was also aided by the fact that he often didn't use a dedicated 10. However, Arteta only has Aubameyang playing as a winger nominally, so he often pushes higher and centrally in the left half of the pitch into the traditional striker role. It is Ozil instead who often drifts into the left half space, meaning that the fullback has 2 men to worry about, and they can look to combine for the cross. But Arteta wants to maintain a man in zone 14, and Lacazette is more than capable of dropping into this region to be found between the lines or find a man in the midfield more easily as he takes attention. If he does get space here though, he can threaten a shot or look to play a 1-2 with Aubameyang, then look to shoot. But at the same time, bunching so many players to the left creates space on the right hand side, and Arteta encourages his winger to hug the touchline. If the switch is to occur, Maitland-Niles moves higher into the right-hand half space to occupy the winger and fullback, whilst the threat of Ozil between the lines often ties up the midfielders. Xhaka will now have time and space to switch the play, and he regularly plays the most long balls for the team. And once the ball gets to the winger, unlike City, Maitland-Niles is still eager to overlap, especially as Pepe is left-footed and often looks to cut in. whilst Ozil or Torreira can move in this region on the support. Either way, a major goal of the attack is to get into good crossing positions to the forwards. But from their default positioning on the left, they can also trigger a right-hand side attack. Xhaka can find Luiz and shift into the midfield, which can trigger Maitland-Niles to move into the traditional full-back role. When the ball moves to him, Pepe is still a wide option. One build-up option we have seen is Pepe pushing high to open a gap here, whilst Ozil moves to occupy it. If the midfielder tracks him, this opens up a gaping hole for Lacazette to drop into, whilst Aubameyang can make the deep run into the box to be found through combination play. But if he's not tracked, he has the time and space on the ball, and with his passing range, he can find Pepe, Lacazette or Aubameyang. Alternatively, Lacazette is an excellent link player and can drop here with Ozil running beyond to stretch the defense. Pepe stays wide and can be found whilst the two forwards and Ozil look to make a run into the box. These movements look to be the basics of what Arteta is trying to achieve offensively, but he's limited by a lack of width on the left-hand side. In addition, the attacking play should improve with more technically gifted players coming into the club, as performing these movements quicker will help open up more space for the team. Now let's look at his defensive tactics. One problem Emery faced was being torn apart on the counter-attack, as he played Torreira high up to try and initiate a high press, and Guendouzi would have often moved high into the left half space for him. As a result, Xhaka was an island in midfield and was often easily bypassed. Arteta, by building up slowly, has changed this. Early in his tenure, they looked to press high, and having had his players in close proximity when attacking helped. When the ball is high, Xhaka often moved into the midfield, meaning that they had a shield of 3 in midfield to stop the counter. This would give more license to the players ahead of the ball to press energetically, knowing that they have a safety net behind them. Ozil often joined Lacazette in the press, and once the ball was forced wide, the ball-side winger would look to converge and force a long ball. However, Arteta himself has noted that his team does not have the fitness or personnel to consistently press. As a result, the pressing has backed off drastically, with players such as Xhaka, Ozil, Mustafi, and more not being suited to a high-pressing system. As a result, in recent times, after losing the ball, Arsenal drop into a fairly well-organised, low to mid block in a 4-4-2. Torreira, now defending in his natural position as opposed to being high up, has contributed greatly to the midfield shield. When the team remains aware, shifting depending on the ball's position, this shape has been effective. But at times, they become complacent in the shape and allow shots either from range or from a well-worked move. Despite massively improving the style of play at the club, there's no getting away from the fact that statistically, there hasn't been much improvement to speak of. His 8 points in 7 games are only the 12th best in the league during that time period, with the points per game falling from the Emery era. The team is scoring more goals per game, although still not impressive at 1.14 per game, and are conceding slightly more at 1 goal per game. All this means that so far, Arteta has only lost 1 league game, but at the same time, he's only won 1. However, he is early in his tenure, and with a squad that is not fully suited to his style of play. The improved performances should be the focus and bring encouragement, and greater scrutiny should only follow after at least 1 transfer window. But what are your thoughts on Arteta? I'd love to hear them down below. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.